Talk about movies with you. Talk about movies with you. We'll learn about behind the scenes and deeper meanings, 'cause this is just a film review. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Film Recommendations. I'll be recommending only a couple of films in this particular episode. The first one is on DVD, and it's a little bit hard to find, and you can probably find it online in a few chunks and pieces. But it's called The Prince's Trust All-Star Rock Concert, and the premise of its conception was a little bit dull. Prince Charles simply wanted to do some fundraising, and so he wanted to have a rock concert where people would pay tickets and they could sell the broadcasting rights to whomever, and the money would go towards his different charities, particularly one that was of interest to him at the time. So, of course, this was Prince Charles of the United Kingdom. Anyway, it is really a knockout concert for anyone who's a fan of music from the 1980s and even the 1970s through the 1980s. You have as some of the headliners Elton John, Tina Turner, Eric Clapton, Paul McCartney. Oh, I'm trying to think who else. George Michael does a brief cameo. I was a little disappointed that in the concert they decided to go ahead and do Every Time You Go Away 2 times, because George Michael was delayed, and so he came back out. They came back out and decided to do it a second time with George Michael, because apparently that was the only song he knew that everyone else knew. So that I was disappointed about. But other than that, it's really an excellent concert with a lot of great songs. All of the different artists either do new songs from their new albums at the time, which was of course mid 80s, or they do songs that were recent hits. For instance, Elton John does a live cover of I'm Still Standing. Phil Collins gets up to the piano and does In the Air Tonight. And Paul McCartney comes out for the last 2 songs and does When I Saw Her Standing There and Get Back. So it's a really sensational video, a really sensational DVD or VHS. It's older, so the DVD release is a little bit harder to find, but it is well worth it. Recording quality is basically directly from the VHS. They didn't do any effort to restore it because it was just recorded for television broadcast originally and VHS release for later on. And really, I find that that low quality isn't as much of a distraction from the rest of it, which is mostly focused on the music. The camera angles are really good, so you feel right in the middle of the concert. They do a few shots of the concert, and at the very end you see a little pan, a little cut to Lady Diana, of course, who was at the time Princess of Wales, and Charles standing there enjoying the show. And at first you're like, who the heck are those skinny geeks? And then you're like, oh yeah, they're the royal couple at the time, back before the affair and the divorce and all the other stuff that a lot of the younger folks than me probably don't remember ever hearing about, but I remember learning about it. I was just barely a kid at the time. I was so little. But of course, I do remember all these great songs and all the great artists on this video. So that's the Prince's Trust All-Star Rock Concert. And it's one of those big charity concerts where just all the stars come out to shine, as they say. The other movie that I'm recommending is one for the whole family. Kind of like the concert video, would be good for the whole family. There's nothing really inappropriate in it. But it's mostly for the older folks who kind of like that music. But it has a lot of songs that I think the little kids would like too. They kind of play the up-tempo stuff, other than Every Time You Go Away and In the Air Tonight. Everything else is pretty much up-tempo and catchy, so the kids will love it. They'll be able to dance to it. Anyway, the other one is actually a German kids movie called Hilfe, ich bin ein Junge. And that means help, I'm a boy. And what's clever about the title is it's kind of like Freaky Friday, only a little boy and a little girl switch, and they're about 11. And the boy switches into the girl's body, and so uh, the title could mean help, I'm a boy stuck in a girl's body, or help, I'm a I'm a boy but I'm really a girl, kind of thing where basically their identities have switched. And really, it's interesting because they're very different kind of personalities, and they set that up from the beginning. The girl is very good at math, and the boy is very good at art, but because he only really kind of keeps it private, nobody else really knows, and so he just hangs out with the boys and kind of picks on the smart girl, who is also a an accomplished swimmer. So one of their friends uh, steals a sorcerer's coat and magic book. And yes, I know, a sorcerer. Okay, but this is a children's movie. It's intended as kind of a little romping adventure for kids. And so obviously the idea is that by the end they understand each other, they grow closer as friends, and their friend, who is basically kind of orphaned, um, kind of begins to feel comfortable with himself and at home. And of course, because the boy and the girl understand one another, uh, and they're able to kind of understand what it's like from the other person's perspective and from their life, they're able to do a lot more in their own life. For instance, the girl doesn't really want to be a swimmer. She doesn't want to move away from where she is to go to a swimming school, um, and you know leave all her friends. And she also and the boy, his father can't sell any paintings. His father's an artist, and uh, he decides to finally let his gift show for portraiture. And so it of course I'm spoiling the movie for you, but you won't really care if you're going to watch this with your kids. You're going to want to know what kind of stuff is in it. There's no nudity. Uh, there's no violence. It's really a very gentle kind of show, and you may want to get it with a dubbed audio track. I watched it with the subtitles and found it really interesting and fun. Um, it is not a very long movie. You could easily watch it in an afternoon or on a car trip or whatever, if you're able to find it on recording. If you're not, you'll be able to find it online easily enough. And I believe I saw it on Netflix, was where I watched it. But you can check around for your different services and see what you're able to find. And that film is again called Hilfe, ich bin ein Junge, or Help, I'm a boy. So that's it for this episode of Film Recommendations. Bye bye.